Have you been listening to this show for a while? Do you like this show? Do you want to see it continue? There's one way you can do that. You can actually visit our Patreon page and donate some money to make sure the show continues. That's the only way we fund the show, the only way we make it happen. Go to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns, find out bonus stuff you can get for supporting us, and make sure the show keeps on trucking.
You stop eating at a certain time, and
I never stop eating.
Never. That's my secret, Cat. I'm always eating. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Canada.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens.
Your name.
The anime.
Yeah. It's a good one.
It's very good.
It's a good one.
If you haven't seen Your Name, it's not a series, it's a movie. It's very good. You can do it in like 2 hours.
Don't confuse it with Call Me By Your Name. Very different movies.
Confuse it with Call Me By Your Name. Please watch Call Me By Your Name or Your Name.
Both love stories.
And tweet at me like either one of them is an anime.
Your name, Anthony, is Anthony.
That's true.
Have you ever...
You figured it out.
Did
and
you
now
ever...
I have to grant your wish.
Yeah. Finally. I wish you would calm the fuck down once in a while. No.
Me too.
Did you ever have a conversation with your parents where you're like, you were almost named something else?
Mario, Rocco, or Vito. And I'm glad
God, you're so Italian.
None of those happened. But here's the thing.
I have a cousin, Rocco.
I'm not super Italian.
Yeah.
I'm like marginally Italian. I just happen to, it's just like, this is the patrilineal name. It doesn't mean I'm Italian.
Have you ever been to a marginally Italian restaurant? They're so good.
Yeah, it's the Olive Garden.
When you're here, you're marginally Italian.
When you're here, it's marginally Italian food. Out of a bag.
It's not so much that it's marginally Italian food, it's that it's marginally food that happens to be Italian.
Yeah, on my dad's side, my dad wanted to name me Mario, Rocco, or Vito, just because even though we're not super Italian, I think he just wanted to posture.
Is it cool if I just want to give your dad a high five really bad?
I guess, but like he was posturing, dude.
So good.
Yeah. And then my mom wanted like she's the Jewish side, so she wanted very much like Adam, Ben, like they compromised with a name that's like, hey, calm the fuck down, both of you, and meet in the middle.
All right. Well,
how about you?
I think I was always going to be Jeffrey. My middle name was in dispute for a long, long time, and my dad wanted me to have the same initials he did. So that was the difficult one. But I think my dad he always wanted his son to have the same initials, so he always was thinking about J names. So he came up with Jeffrey very early. I think that was never in dispute.
Yeah.
But there's an article we got by the mighty eagle herself, Catherine Tuck.
I usually do a better eagle, I think, but I'm not feeling so well.
You got your eagles on the fritz?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like a little.
That's okay,
Catherine.
man. Don't strain your eagle. This is an article all about names in the New Scientist, and there was a new study. There was a new study at Syracuse University in New York where 500 college students were asked to rate 400 popular male and female names from the last 7 decades. And they framed the questions like this. Imagine that you were about to meet Samantha or Jacob or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
How competent...
Or 3 ghosts. Jacob is just the first of them.
Yeah. How competent, warm, old do you think she or he is when you see their name?
Oh.
So give us characteristics about that person based purely on their first name.
Samantha is in her mid-30s, maybe early 40s. She's very sweet. Yeah. She enjoys young adult and genre fiction. And she's crafty in some way. I think she's potentially crafty in some way.
That's pretty good.
That's my Samantha.
Well, Samantha, come on in here. We see how close you were.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I love you. Yeah. What if her name was...
Why does she sound like that? What kind of horrible abomination have you made?
Well, I cobbled together all the qualities you wanted into one creature named Samantha.
Oh, God.
Help me.
I don't want this responsibility on my head.
Kill me.
I wish you were never born. I wish this never happened. But yes, I will kill you. I will do the right thing if Jeff will not. This was a horrible idea, and I can't believe you did it.
Do you want to meet Jacob?
No.
What if I said her name was Samantha,
Angela,
Mona, Jonathan.
Kids, ask your parents.
Kids, ask your parents. So, what did we find out with all these names? Well, there was a clear gender effect.
Mm-hmm.
Names associated with low competence and high warmth tended to be female.
Huh.
Names like Hannah, Melody, Mia.
I would have given Jacob
warmth?
high warmth and low intelligence.
Yeah, that's classic Jake.
That's so Jacob.
Conversely, names associated with high competence and low warmth tended to be male, like Howard, Lawrence, and Reginald.
Mm-hmm. Well, Reginald is landed gentry. Reginald is some sort of lord.
Yeah, but you imagine him as very competent.
He's got,
Reginald
like-
is the guy you want to take care of the house when you're not there.
Yeah, Reginald is.
He probably is wearing white gloves.
If he's not the lord of the manor, he is at least the head servant.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Reginald to bring the car around.
Or the head clerk at the office. He probably
Right.
has opera glasses in his pocket at all times.
But Reggie's more of a did he come into work today kind of guy?
Yeah, sort of a front man of a ska band.
Yeah.
I saw Reggie on the Warped Tour.
I loved Reggie.
The full effect was with him.
So they also said some names were particularly associated with age. For example, Betty and Bruce
Mhm.
were consistently perceived as older than Brittany and Brad.
Sure, but that's just trends. That's just
Fashionable
naming
names,
trends.
right? So the only way they say around this is to choose a name that never seems to go out of style, like David or Michael. Those are universal.
Or Hubert.
Hubert never
Or
goes
Enid.
out of
You know, a name that never goes out of style. A
Where
name
were
that's
you when I was naming my daughter?
timeless.
Enid.
Like Danforth.
Danforth.
But not Dan or Danny.
You call me
Danforth.
Call me Damp for short.
You can call me Dampf. Call me by my Dampf.
So
That's nothing. Why did I say that? Why did I say that? That's nothing.
this is interesting in the sense that there was a lot of.
Here's the thing. Just because you call something back doesn't make it a joke.
Sometimes it does though.
Yeah, sometimes it does, but that doesn't mean you should do it every time. Just remembering that something happened earlier in a conversation doesn't make it a joke.
And that's when to grow on.
So we found there's gender bias. We also found there's racial bias. That names that were perceived as white, like Emily, were likely to be rated higher than names that were perceived as black, like Lakeisha.
Mm-hmm.
Another study found that unusual names like Ajax, Athol, Majestic, and Tangerine were viewed less favorably in
Sure.
hiring.
Now, let me tell you something. I like an Ajax. Ajax is cool. I don't respect Tangerine.
Right.
Tangerine, get the fuck out of here.
This was a double-blind study about hiring practices, and then they did one in the
What do you think Tangerine's nickname is? Jerry, right?
Jerry,
Yeah, Tangerine. Probably a Jerry.
Big T,
Big T. I don't know that gets you more respect, though. You know what I mean? It's
Tangerine.
like when
you can call
know
me Jerry. Yeah, I
when
get
you
it.
know somebody that has, or an Irene maybe at the end of Tangerine. Eenie, Meanie. There's like a, you know, when you know somebody who has like a super weird name and they like get to the teacher first day of school before roll call.
Yeah.
And they go, listen, I know it says my name is Danforth. Please don't say Danforth. You can just say Dan. Don't say Danforth out loud. No, you don't have to read the roll.
Here.
You know, why are you messing with me?
Yeah.
I know you're messing with me.
No, I want to make sure that Danforth is in
No.
school today.
No, it's Dan. And it's like, it's very obvious that my nickname would be Dan. You could just say Dan. From here on out, you're probably going to call me Dan. Why won't you just say it?
All right.
For roll call.
All right.
Please.
I'll say it. Okay.
Please.
Dan Butter Plucker.
Thank you. Here. Present. Accounted for. This is the year that everything's finally going to go my way.
Dodged a bullet on
I
that
headed
one.
off at the pass this year. New school, new life for old Butter Plucker. Nobody's going to get the best of me now. Danforth.
I hate my parents.
So this was done for hiring practice. What was found to be?
Several different studies are listed here. There's the new one with that showed very pronounced gender bias with the names. But then they reference several classic experiments that were done. There's one
For some reason, they wrote about the Skinner box in there.
yeah.
It was like weird.
There's one where they went to teachers and they gave them essays from the students. They did it to a whole bunch of teachers with
Oh,
a wide variety of
same
age.
essay,
Same exact essays.
different names.
These are essays that are actually written by 5th grade students, and they were presented for evaluation to 80 female teachers, age range 20 to 45,
Mm-hmm.
and 80 female undergraduates. And the authorship of the essays was randomly linked to boys and girls. And they used common, popular, and attractive names, as well as rare, unpopular, and unattractive names. And the quality of each essay was higher, as rated by the teachers, when authored by names associated with positive stereotypes.
Wow.
Yeah. And the craziest
By how
thing,
much? By how much? Like a lot?
Yeah. And the crazy thing is the stereotype bias was more pronounced the longer the teacher had been teaching.
Yeah, sure.
The undergraduates had less of that effect. And the longer that the teachers had been around, the more they're like, yeah, fucking Billy. Yeah, he's going to be a dummy.
I think Billy's
are dumb.
No, I think Billy is like right in the middle. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Billy is like, it's like the white noise of names for kids. You know, Billy,
Yeah.
Tommy, Steve,
John.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those things are like white noise for names. It's like fine. Although I think, here's what's up. Like, in my own head, I think of Tommy's, now that we've said the name, as like a little hyperactive, a little rambunctious.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me, like how much, because you know that a name can't possibly have anything to do with the quality of the child,
Right.
except if we come into it as a culture with a stereotype about that name and treat that human being as if they have the qualities we associate with that name.
Yeah. And it kind of seems to me like a weird chicken and egg thing, right? Because if they're treated that way, do they sort of start living up to that expectation?
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
the kids who have that name sort of behave that way? Like if your name is Babette, do you sort of, if you have a stripper name, do you
Yeah.
become a stripper? You know, if your name is,
Why Babette? Tell me the
Sounds like
story.
a trip-
tell me
doesn't
tell me
that
the
sound
story associated with Babette.
does it sound like a stripper name to you?
You could have picked any name and you went with Babette.
I don't know. I pulled
Tell
it
me
out of
about
my,
Spring Break
I pulled it-
2001.
I pulled it out of my butt bet, my bad butt.
Sorry,
my bad butt.
Spring Break 1978.
Not cool. No, I mean, does the name influence the behavior based on the
Yes. Well,
previous cultural setting of that name?
and I think we know the perceptions of our own names, right? Like I'm sitting across from a Jeff.
Mm.
I don't call you Jeffrey. Nobody
Right.
calls you Jeffrey.
I wish some people would.
Your friends call you Jeff.
Right,
And when you introduce yourself as Jeff.
right.
When you're credited on things, you credit yourself as Jeffrey.
That's right.
That's the more professional version of your name as far as you're concerned.
Right.
More syllables,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But Jeff is a guy you want to hang out with.
Hope
So you introduce yourself as Jeff. It's not necessarily true, Jeff. Now,
I hope so.
I mean, great. I'm not going to give you positive or negative reinforcement on that.
Right.
I want you to find your own way.
Mm.
That's a quality that's very Anthony of me. So, but no, I am not a Tony.
Right.
I have never been a Tony. When
And
I
is
was
that because of the rhyming nature of your first and last name?
a little bit, but
Or is
even
there
if
a quality of a Tony that just doesn't seem like you?
a little bit of both, right? Like even if I introduce myself as Anthony Carboni, people get that I'm Tony Carboni. It's
Right.
not a hard puzzle to solve,
Right.
right? That's
Yeah.
not going to change them from doing it. But I think there is something like very early on in life, I decided I just didn't feel like a Tony.
Yeah.
And I honestly think it's because we made a reference to this earlier.
You didn't know who was the boss.
I think the only Tony that I knew in pop culture was literally Tony fucking Danza.
Yeah.
Or like whenever I think about Tonys in
What about
pop
Tony
culture,
the Tiger?
Tony Soprano,
Yeah.
they make reference to like, and you never see, but in Pulp Fiction, there's Tony Rocky Horror. Like you just know this guy is a guy who's like tough. He like fucks people up.
Yeah.
These are dudes that are like bruisers, dumb bruisers.
I think
And I was
there's-
just like, that's not me.
right.
I don't think of myself as like a Tony. I'm an Anthony.
Yeah.
And I also didn't know any other Anthonys. And so for me, that kind of made it more my name.
Right.
Like, because Tony was a little more common than Anthony. So I was just like, no, I'm an Anthony
Mm-hmm.
because it feels more like me.
It's interesting, and it's an interesting question when you're like, I've had two kids now, and this responsibility of naming them and giving them a moniker that is loaded with all of this stuff that we're seeing scientifically proven. That's a big decision.
I think you did a good job. Like, Kylo's a great name.
Thanks. Thanks. And there's nothing socially loaded about it.
No. You think Kylo, you think there's a good dude that I want to hang out with.
Yes.
Maybe he should date my daughter.
Maybe.
That'll turn out really well.
Yeah, maybe we promote him to the highest ranks of our organization.
As his father, I fear nothing about Kylo. I think we'll have a very good relationship.
I'm so glad.
No, but Jack, I think, is one of those names that's like, there's something about like solid consonants in names. Also, solid consonants and shorter names that just kind of sound more, like we were saying, I don't want to say generic, but they're a little more white noise.
Yeah.
Like I don't ascribe as many things to a Jack or a Jeff or a Tom as I do to somebody with like a longer name or a name that has like a more unique sound to it.
Well, this article actually they actually mentioned Jack, which I thought was interesting. It says that
drug addict
names that are perceived as short,
Loser.
sharp male names are perceived as more attractive.
Oh.
They assume that the person would be more attractive, a Jack, or in the female version, it's soft sounding names like Sophie.
Yeah.
Sophie sounds like a more attractive person in the abstract.
There's something about, and it's funny because it's a difference. Like you think about cultural stuff, but I also think about just things that we know about phonemes and phonics and sounds that we find pleasant.
Right.
Sounds that we find melodic or sounds that, and that's like, as somebody who like studied a lot of British lit and particularly I love Dickens.
Mm-hmm.
I love Dickens and Twain a lot.
Yeah.
Dickens and Twain both name their characters verbs, basically. They name their characters sounds that sound like the personality of the person.
It feels good in your mouth. So you could say you love Dickens your mouth.
Suppose you could, Jeff. Suppose you could. But yeah, like, so it's interesting. Like you think about Jack.
Yeah.
And I think about it sort of the same way that I think about like, the guy in Christmas Carol, Fezziwig, who was throwing the party.
Right.
It sounds pleasant, sounds a little like old and silly. It's not a real name. This is just something that we know phonetically from hearing his name.
Yeah.
I think about Jack, and Jack just sounds like quick, strong, decisive,
Right.
pleasant,
And then you get like the next level of gaming the system where people name their kids actual words, like
which fuck those people though.
right?
Yeah.
Like chastity or
Now here's the thing about chastity. Here's how this name malfunctioned. Chastity is definitely a stripper name.
right?
And
Yeah.
that's a problem because chastity the word and chastity the name.
You're just loading
Parents,
Yeah.
God bless you, but we know just as much about the world as you do. And you could call your kid Chastity, but we all know what we're thinking. You want us to think of the one, and you're like, oh, people don't really. Yo, we do.
Yeah.
You gave your daughter a stripper name.
You did. It's on you.
I apologize to my friend Chastity, but
Do you have a friend
also-
Chastity?
I have also told her that she has a stripper name. And she knows.
She's a stripper.
No, she's the head of video at GameSpot.
So basically the same thing.
Is it? It is.
Yeah, it's a strange endeavor to kind of try to come up with a name for your kid.
Yeah.
And
Did you have Jack like tucked away? Was it Jack in
it's
your
my
head?
dad's name.
Yeah.
So that's where we went for that. But we went round and round with a lot of different names for both times. And
Do we know, have you said what you've settled on for baby girl? Have you said it to the internet
her name's
yet?
Zoe. Yeah,
'Cause
Zoe.
I know there was a delay. I didn't want to announce anything that you hadn't announced
No, I appreciate
publicly
that. Yeah, no, that's a hard thing. And it's one of those things that's a decision that's made for you, but affects your entire life. You have no say in it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could later,
You can
obviously,
change it.
but for much of your developmental life, you have no part in that decision, and it affects you. So that's a big deal.
And it's interesting that we do these cultural things and we know these cultural things and we name kids in a certain way because we know that it can't possibly, logically,
Right.
consciously, we know it can't have anything to do with how the child behaves.
And yet-
these teachers have to know
Right.
that like all Billies aren't hyperactive. They must know that, but there's something about pattern recognition and
Yes.
sort of selective bias
Yeah.
that makes teachers go, I remember I had like a really shitty Billy. And so now all
Well,
Billies are shitty.
Absolutely. And that's the discussion that we had over and over in naming our kids is somebody would say a name. My wife or I would suggest a name and be like, oh no, I knew somebody in high school who was that and I hated him.
Yeah.
Or whatever. You know, it's like,
And that's different because it's on a personal level. That's within your
Yeah,
family.
right.
Like I'm not going to name my kid after somebody I hate. I don't
like a
want that
Jeff. You wouldn't
association.
name him a Jeff.
Yeah, I'm not going to name my kid Jeff by any means at all. But no, I think it's interesting on a personal level. But then when you take that to the rest of the world and it's just like, well, I didn't want to name my kid Jack because there was this Jack I knew that I hated.
Right.
And then everybody's like, no, Jacks are cool.
Right.
And you're just
right.
like, oh, okay.
yeah.
It's interesting. And it's interesting that it affects things so greatly on a subconscious level in
and
our
that
lives.
we have this idea about what those people are like based on no information other than this label.
And this is like this is why I've always said, and that's why there's been such a big push for this over the last few years. When you're hiring people,
Yeah.
when teachers and professors are grading papers, all this stuff, it should all be blind.
Yeah.
It should all be blind.
I agree.
They should not see any name or any identifying information about the student or the applicant at
Yeah.
any point. That's why I hate handwritten blue books.
But then,
Because like
you,
if you've written a couple things and you hand it off to the professor and the professor goes, oh, that's this person's writing. I hate handwritten papers for kids in school.
yeah.
All papers from the second kids have learned to write and are done being graded on penmanship.
Mhm.
Everything should be typed. Teachers should not see the names. None of that stuff.
Kids shouldn't be present in classrooms. It
No.
should only be just a digital barcode that it's all remotely.
Well, they
just
have to wear
transfer.
hoods. All
There you
children
go.
should have to wear hoods and cloaks.
And then you know what'll happen is there'll be a bias. The teacher will be like, "Oh, I'm so sick of 147s. 147s are all the same."
That's
Have
true.
you noticed that 147s
God.
are such idiots?
And you know what? It's crazy because 148 is always just so wonderful.
yeah. Oh, I love a great 148.
Oh, 148, and they just like
They're so sweet.
they have to sit next to each other.
Yeah.
And I just feel so bad for the 148s.
Yeah, I know. 147 really is an asshole.
Have you noticed that you have strong associations with names when you
Yeah.
meet people? Do you know, like right off the bat, like, oh, I'm not going to like this person just because of their name? Let us know on Twitter. I'm at @Carboni.
I'm at Jeff Canada.
You can also discuss that with people in our Facebook group. Remember, Facebook is totally safe and private, and there's no problem with Facebook. It's just
Trust it.
facebook.com/group/wehaveconcerns. It was created by a Mark, and Marks are trustworthy people.
Yeah.
We also have a Discord. If you are a patron, you can talk with other concerned citizens. If you want to become a patron, support the show, and get access to the private chat room, just head to patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. Oh, the hashtag is tangerine.